Everyone, it's lovely to be with you today with our welcome to our webinar, Exploring Game Design in Education. It's starting to get a little bit brighter here. We're experiencing spring, and hopefully there's a sign of sort of more sunshine and optimism in the air at the moment. And so I hope that's the same with you as it is here. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at different methods of teaching GameMaker and game design at different stages through as students progress through their education. And we're also going to talk about the COVID report support that we're able to provide as well at the moment. One thing also just to mention is at the end we'll give you some details on how you can get access to a free license to try out GameMaker as well. So please hang around to the end and I'll give you all the information about that. So onto the agenda. We're going to start with a very brief intro to GameMaker, and then we're going to look at educators' experience of teaching GameMaker and some research that we've done there. We're going to look at teaching game design at different stages. So we're looking generally at age 12 to 14, and then we're going to look at 15 to 16, and we're going to touch on how you might teach GameMaker at age 17 and above at college or university as well, but mainly looking at 12 to 14 and 15 to 16. And we're going to look at how you would teach in a classroom, but we're also going to cover how you would teach in a home learning situation as well, which we're all crossing our fingers and hoping that this home learning situation is going to dissipate soon, but it's still with us for a lot of us. We're hearing some positive stories about schools going back soon. Hopefully there's some more going back in March and soon afterwards. So yes, I hope that's the case with you, certainly, and but we'll cover that area as well. We'll look at how licensing works. I mentioned COVID learning support, so what we're doing to help you use our licenses more effectively in teaching students at home, and then we'll go through the data privacy approach that we take as well, and there'll be some time at the end to Q&A. So as Christy says, if you use the Q&A tab, I'll take a look at all the questions that you've provided there, and we'll run through them. So GameMaker Studio 2. First developed in 1999, so 21 years ago, by Professor Mark Overmars. It's a really easy to learn 2D game making tool, and it's used by professionals, so it has all of that sort of all of those credentials. Some top games being made with GameMaker, but for people coming in, you can start with drag and drop, as we've got here, learn the fundamentals of code and the way that you position code before transitioning to actually doing code. So drag and drop translates into a C-based custom language called GameMaker language, which has been designed to make it nice and easy to make games. It includes tools within it, such as an image editor, sprite editor, object editor, and room editor. And last August, we launched Sequences, which is an amazing animation tool that can really bring your games to life really easily. We've got free educator resources that provide you with, well, we'll go into that in a lot more detail, but basically they provide you with everything that you need to run your classes. We've got a large supportive and active community, and that helps us with providing a lot of content, and also when people get stuck, they can turn to the community, and places like our forum will provide a lot of support. Big studio credibility. There's been some amazing games made with GameMaker. there's the iPad Game of the Year. There's games like Downwell and Hyperlight Drifter, etc., which have made millions and millions of dollars of revenue. So students can come in and actually see GameMaker, use GameMaker, and actually can, if they want to, go and make a living and a career out of making games out of GameMaker, which is really cool. So we provide games through our education licenses on mobile, web, or HTML5, desktop, and also console. So the licenses also enable you to make games for Xbox and PlayStation 4. Well, and actually we've announced this week that we're also we're in beta at the moment for the next gen console, so Xbox XS and also PlayStation 5 as well. And we have over 1,000 new users signing up every single day, and of that 1,000, about 900 of those, about 90% of those are beginners learning to make their first game. So we sent out a questionnaire to our teachers at the start of November last year, and we also ran that in 2019, and the answers are very consistent. So what we have here is a chart that shows how effective game design lessons are teaching the following, and you can see, over 70%. These are people who are answering very effective or somewhat effective. Learning engagement comes out on top. Giving students individual confidence and planning are the real big ones. It's always nice to see, programming is almost taken as a given, I suppose, because you're covering the approaches to actually programming and teaching students how to program. But it's really nice to see things like class behavior, student-teacher bond in there as well. This is a question I get asked quite a lot, and may even be asked it again at the end. So people ask me, what age range do you teach game design to? So I mentioned earlier that we're going to be looking at the materials for age 12 to 14, 15 and 16, and then 17 plus. But you can see that predominantly it's actually at 15, 16 and 17 where game design is taught. And it's at that age, it's often more as a sort of creativity tool, whereas at 12 to 14, it's about learning the fundamentals of coding. And this is the answers that we got from our teachers on how they approach teaching game design. So step-by-step using video is obviously a very popular approach, and more so actually now with home learning. We've got assets that we're going to go through where teachers can provide video tutorials to students for them to run through in their own time without needing too much intervention. And there's also maybe in more of a classroom situation where you need to have the teacher leading, or where you've got Zoom calls or etc. You can have the teacher teaching code at the same time as making a step-by-step game. And the green one, which is set a project with objectives for students to interpret. This is the one that tends to happen at age 15 to 16. So we'll talk about what support materials we have for that type of teaching as well. And looking at evaluation, observation is important. Individual assignments as well. So we'll be looking at the ways in which you can evaluate the students' work that's being done as well. In the survey that we ran, we asked teachers, how has teaching game design aided the education process at your school? And these are some of the really lovely quotes that we got back. The kids are happier in class. There aren't behavior problems like in other classes. Games require creatives and tech teams to work together with a common goal to solve. While they build games, they also build friendships, learn to overcome hardships and create something meaningful. My students very much enjoy the game design units that I teach. Personally, I think that game design is effective at improving problem solving, attention to detail, and teamwork. The students have learned to solve complex or abstract problems by themselves. The content provides a sufficient challenge and helps develop persistence and attention to detail. It has certainly enabled some students who are otherwise disengaged from the curriculum to re-engage. And there's a link at the bottom there to an article where we go into more detail on these results. Next up, we asked, what aspects of learning game design do students enjoy the most? So the quotes that we got back from our teachers were definitely the end, where they finally tried their own game, even if it was the most simple game in the world. Learning to overcome challenges and have a working program. The students love to show their parents what they've made themselves. They're very proud if they get ideas done and improve their skills. The feeling of accomplishment when completing a game and watching others play the games they built. Just being able to create an original game, then watch their peers play the game is such a high for these kids. To be able to say, I made that, is a real ego boost. Creating games, making rapid progress in a short span of time. Thinking up new games, brainstorming is normally a pain students to do, but not when it involves game design. And seeing their ideas take shape. So moving on now to the educator materials that we provide. So we've got a game that you would make called Space Bubbles. And what you have to do is you have to pop bubbles and use your gamma ray to break rocks, and you need to make it to the end of the course. And we have all sorts. I'm going to play it shortly, so you'll see what I mean. But we have rocks with all sorts of behaviours chasing you down. And what comes with this is you receive 8 one-hour lessons with PowerPoint presentations. There's 3 homework sheets, and none of the homeworks even require internet access. There's 6 video tutorials which enable you to build the basic game. And there's also written tutorial worksheets if you don't have access to playing video tutorials. And we also have 15 extension and challenge tasks that enable you to take the basic game that you've created and make it much more advanced. We have an assessment system where there's self-assessment, peer assessment, and teacher assessment. It's very detailed with a lot of information about what's needed to progress the student. There's a teacher's guide which takes you through each of the 1-hour lessons and structures those lessons for you and provides you with, as I say, the PowerPoint presentations, but it tells you how to go through those PowerPoint presentations. And we also provide completed GameMaker projects for each stage. So, so you're not dependent on the student having successfully made the game to the previous lesson. They can start from the next lesson, so they're ready to go. This is all free, by the way, and the link here will take you through to that, where you can download all of this from our website. So the curriculum topics that are covered in here include the key concepts and principles of programming, where we're looking at sequence selection statements and iteration. And we also model real-world programs and physical systems. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a teacher review, self-review, and peer review. And now I'm going to bring the game over here, and you can see how good I am at playing games. If you just bear with me. So we'll just have the one-player game. So here's my little spacecraft, and we've got power-ups there. Oh, you can see bubbles coming to get me. I'm going to see if I can get one of those power-ups. Yeah. Oh, and I'm shooting gamma rays, and you might have noticed that I was immune from being got by a rock at the start there. We've got things happening here, so you can see there's the background where the space image is rolling around, and you can see at the top left we've got the number of lives that I've got left, and you can see next to that the distance to the wall. We've got bubbles here with lots of different characteristics. Some of them are starting to follow me around slowly, and some of them are, you've got to see different numbers of dots above them, which are numbers of lives. So you can see the how far we've got to go till I get to the walk gate and the score. So this is a lovely little game for people to make, and your students can make this game really easily, and then go show it to their parents and friends afterwards. So, it's a great little thing, and this is made. Oh, I'm actually at the walk gate now. There we go, and I've made it. Right, I'll turn that off. So yeah, so it's a great complete game that you can make with your students. In a home learning situation with students aged 12 to 14, we have tutorials that don't require teacher involvement. So these are available on YouTube, and this is a really easy game to make. And what we do with these ones is we make these in drag and drop D&D or GML, which is a code version. So one of the things that you can do actually is you can make some of our basic games in drag and drop, and then that gives you the impetus to be able to then move on to remaking them in code. So you can make this game in an hour. Sometimes it will probably take a little bit longer than that to get this working. And then what you have within this is an intro to GameMaker and programming, and then a number of videos that start with setting up movement, and then dealing with attacking, collisions, scores, lives and effects, and sound effects and polish. And then once you've made that game, you can move on to the next one, which is actually we've called this one Space Mods, because it takes that original game and it lets you do lots of other things with it. So we have things like power-ups, like you saw when I was actually playing the other game. You can see you get power-ups which enable you to go quicker or shoot more or whatever that might be. You have enemy ships getting involved, cameras which will follow you around. So it means that you can move from a quite a small environment to almost an infinite environment. Parallax, layered backgrounds, which sort of start to give a bit of a 3D effect. And if you do get hit by a rock, then there's things like particles and screen shape which come in. Really nice comment here that came from one of our community, where they said that going through the series, once they got to Space Mods, they actually felt confident at that point that they'd learned enough from the series to try to customize the game. The next game that we provide, which again, really suitable for beginners aged 12 to 14, is Breakthrough. And this is a slightly longer video tutorial, and it's available in 2 parts and also in drag and drop and GameMaker language. So this is a brick breaker where you have a paddle at the bottom and you're bouncing the ball up. You've probably seen it before. And you've got scoring and you've got some power-ups in there as well. Once you start getting to age 15 to 16, we see the school curriculum focusing more on the creative application of coding. So with project-based tutorials, you can set a theme with your students and get them to work together or on their own to interpret that theme. And you can base a marking scheme on the interpretation of the theme, complexity or functionality that's used, playability, coding practice, or creativity. There are resources for schools to use here. So what I've done here is I've picked out some of the main resources that are available free for schools to use, where you can get things like artwork and audio, and the one at the bottom is really worth taking a look at. This is Global Game Jam, which is run every January, but they make their resources available that they share for free, and they've got a great big list of resources that you can use. Kenny as well, kenny.nl. There's some really fabulous, great art assets that they provide there. On the GameMaker website, we have a central hub for all of our tutorials and community tutorials as well. So you can just go straight into there and look at different tutorials that you can download and run. It's a central repository for all sorts of video tutorials. I say the video and actually written tutorials as well in there. We also have a number of blog articles. So we have a team inside GameMaker who are providing lots of how-to type blog articles. So these are great for these sorts of lessons where the students want to try to come up with an approach that they can take to meet a theme. They can go in and they can take a look at the types of the types of how-to tutorials that we've done, and they can take them down a pathway to enable them to go and explore doing some of those things. And what we also do is we get people who've made and released commercial games. They'll write articles for us on how they've approached those games and how they some of the things that they've done within the games that they've made and that they've released. So what we'll see is some hands-on, including code and including approaches, and also some really good advice on how to approach making games, or how to approach the commercial side of making games as well. This is an example. YouTube, because we have such a huge community, and this is one of the things that really makes GameMaker stand out. A lot of people provide a lot of tutorials, so all you need to do is go onto YouTube, and in this one I did a query on GameMaker space tutorials, and there's pages and pages of content that you can use, and again, it's really inspirational if if you're using a space-based theme. In this example, your students could go in and learn how to do things and replicate that in the game that they're trying to make. We also have a manual, a documents site. So every part of GameMaker is fully documented with examples. So you could just go in if there's something you want to learn how to do or see how it's done. Then you can go into our manual, and it gives you a lot of detail on how to do different elements. There's a lot of things built into GameMaker, a lot of functions built into GameMaker that you can make use of. We also, within GameMaker, have a number of tutorials built into it, and this is really handy for home learning, where you can just go in and run through these tutorials, so you get to know how to use in detail each of the different tools that we have available, and these are available from within GameMaker. And if you're home learning as well, at a slightly more advanced level, then what we have is an intermediate platformer tutorial. So this is two videos. Each of them are approximately 30 minutes, and they'll make the platformer that you can see there, and you get all the assets that go with that. But also, they're made by one of our community members, Sean Spalding. And he's got a very detailed platformer. So this actually integrates into his more detailed platformer tutorials, which I'll just show you here, and there's links through to this, where you go and make a very detailed platformer game. And again, it gives you everything that you want. But that's actually 27 videos, so you can, you're never going to run out of content when you're making games with GameMaker. So this is something that older students, more advanced students can work their way through. I mentioned that we're going to also look at briefly at college and university level. So this is a game that we're making at the moment. I'm scheduling this for release in early April. This is being made with a game developer who's based in Canada, actually lectures at OCAD University in Ontario, and he uses this for teaching his students. So what we have is a role-playing game here, and you have you're able to interact with different characters, etc. And this provides a lot of detail for students to be able to, over the course of an entire term, to build this game and then develop it on their own and take it in their own direction. This is, I'm just showing the game here, being constructed in GameMaker. So this is the GameMaker software, and it just shows how the game looks actually in GameMaker. The game is called Little Town, and it utilizes a lot more of the more advanced functionality that we have within GameMaker, including our sequences animation functionality, and that's what I'm showing here, where you can set layers, and you have animation curves which you can put in place to finally adjust the movement of different characters and sprites, etc. We also have a forum, and we have a very interactive forum where you can go on, you ask a question, and you get answers really quickly from the guys on the forum. There's a lot of people really active, on there every single day, using it and helping each other out. So, just moving on to the licensing options and how GameMaker is licensed. First thing to mention is that what we have is a concurrent use license. So most GameMaker will be if you've got a classroom or a lab, a computer lab, which say has 20 or 30 devices within it, you would run GameMaker, you get licenses or seat licenses for each of those devices, and you can run multiple classes on those. So it's not a per pupil license, it's a per concurrent use license. So each license can be used as up to the number of seats that you have. The only thing that I should mention is that this is that for COVID, what we're doing, because a lot of students are working from home or learning from home at the moment, we're providing 5 concurrent uses for every seat that you own up until the end of June. We'll obviously review how COVID is going and whether home learning is still a thing come June, and I really hope that it isn't for all of our sakes. But currently, what a teacher can do is provide these license for a device, and then give that to sorry, not a license, log-on credentials for a device, and provide that out to 5 students or more. Actually, it's so long as there's only 5 using it at one time, so you can have a class of 30 actually getting by with really only 6 licenses. So the different types of licenses that we have here, just to explain, they're based on the type of export that you would do. The most typical is the educator license, which is a desktop license, which enables you to export games to Windows, Mac, and Linux. There's an Educator Plus license, as some schools prefer to export to HTML5 or web, so that's an additional license. And we also have a more advanced license, which brings in mobile, Android, iOS, and Amazon Fire, and also UWP, which is Universal Windows Platform, that enables you to export to Xbox One using their creator program, and also the PlayStation license, which right now enables you to export to PlayStation 4. But as I say, we're the next gen consoles are going to be live on the next version of GameMaker that goes out we're hoping at the end of March. Actually, one thing I should mention is on the previous screen is that GameMaker can be used on Windows PCs and Mac PCs. We're currently doing some testing, but we're way away at the moment from being able to do it on Chromebook. Have GameMaker used on Chromebook. We're hoping to get there at some point, but we're not yet at a point where we can provide a date for that. But we're really excited about being able to get GameMaker onto Chromebook. This is some research that we've done. It's probably a little bit out of date now, but as you can see, so many of the teachers were affected by COVID when we ran this survey back in November, and I think the situation has probably got worse since then. And so that's why we brought in the situation where we would provide 5 concurrent licenses for everyone who has a license. So for each seat that you have, you can have 5 students using that simultaneously at home. Privacy is really important at the moment and going forwards. The important thing to note about GameMaker is that we collect 0 information on students. Basically, what happens is the school registers an account with GameMaker or Yo-Yo Games, which is the company that I work for, that is the software author of GameMaker. So you create an account with us, and then we provide you with anonymous seat licenses. And as I said, typically you set up those seat licenses for devices, not for students. And so you create the username that you provide, and you create the password, and so there's no information, there's no registration by the student, there's no student information being passed over at any point, and we don't pick that up. So it's nice and safe and secure and very, very private. And congratulations, just to the end now. So this is where we talk about the special offer that we're providing for everyone. What we do when you get an education license, you need to sign up for an account, and then if you click on the big button here that Christy will provide you with more information on, just sign up. They'll provide me with the details, and then I'll allocate you a free teacher license that you can use, and it's a permanent license as well. So you don't need to have any seats to be able to use it. And if your seat licenses, which are 12-month licenses, by the way, when they expire, you can still have access to your permanent teacher license to try things out until you're ready to go again. So, any questions? Let's have a look, see if there's any questions that have come through on the Q&A. No questions yet. Christy, have you got any questions that you want to ask?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, how can students download GameMaker without creating an account?
Oh, yes, good point. So what you need to do, all you need to do is actually go into the yoyogames.com website and /education. When you go onto the Yo-Yo Games website, you'll see that there's an education section that you can go into, and you just download it from there. So there's a Windows and there's a Mac download.
Okay, and then I see a question here from Emily. I can answer this one. She's asking, what is the cost? And I heard you say it was free, but I wasn't sure if that was just a feature. Yeah, that was the teacher resources that Andrew was talking about that are for free. If you would like a quote on how much GameMaker is for your school, you can just email info@studica.com and we can get a quote for you because it's based on a number of factors. Andrew, another question, can you buy user licenses? I can see the number of students to be able to work at home in school. Or sorry, it was, can you also buy user licenses? It's in the chat if you want to take a look at it.
Yes, so I mean, obviously, what we have is there are user licenses. So we're talking about today, we're talking about education licenses. And at the moment, we're supporting COVID. So where students do need to work from at home and at school with education licenses, they can do that with this COVID support. There are situations where students may want to take the licenses and work and use them from home as well. And that's perfectly fine. They can do that, and through the panel that you have, you can bring those licenses back. You don't. So if the student forgets to log off or whatever, you can cancel those using the panel and bring them back. So you're never short of licenses. It's always worth to have maybe a couple more than you need if you've got students that are doing work from home. And you can also set up GameMaker so that when GameMaker is closed, it's automatically logged off. So you're preserving your licenses as well. What else have we got here?
There's one more in the chat, and then we can move over to the Q&A tab if that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't have a computer lab. My school is one-to-one. Will students in my classroom not be able to log in if students outside my classroom are logging in?
Will students in my classroom not be able to log in if students outside my classroom are logging in?
I think that COVID thing you said would take care of that for him.
Well, certainly the COVID will take care of that. If you've only got one license and there is actually a minimum purchase of one license and it's being done one-to-one, it's concurrent license use. So if you've got 5 licenses, then 5 students can use it at any time and they can be anywhere. So I think that probably answers that question. I'm just going to have a look at the Q&A now, Christy. I see there's a few up there. Just to clarify, GameMaker does not currently work on Chromebooks. Unfortunately, yes, that is correct. We're not currently working on Chromebooks. what are system requirements for Mac? Do you update software regularly for OS updates? Yes, we do. Can't remember. I think it's Sierra is the latest version of Mac, or the latest the version that we require. I'll provide that to you, Christy, if you want to send it out. There's a link that provides the details of minimum system requirements, but generally it's a fairly up-to-date operating system that we use, and GameMaker gets updated quarterly, and we stay up to date with operating systems. Probably the more challenging area actually is staying up to date with exports to some of the mobile licenses. But yes, we have a quarterly update going out, and we're up to date all the time with. Purchased 32-year licenses, but haven't been able to use them since March. I contact about getting an extension. Well, I would certainly contact Studica. They'll be able to help you with getting those licenses extended.
And that email again would be info@studica.com. You needed to email us with any questions. So I think that looks like the end of the questions, Andrew. You want to just take it to the last slide?
Okay, I'll move over to final slide then. There you go.
Okay, and
over to you, Christy.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and thank you for everybody for joining us today. Like we said before, if you do need a quote, or if you have questions, or if you have any issues you need to work out, you can email us at info@studica.com, and we'd be happy to help. And just a reminder that I will be sending up that follow-up email. It will include the slides here, as well as the link to get that free educator license. And if you do have any further questions, you can always respond to me, and I can route those questions for you. So just thank you everyone for joining us today, and have a great day.